All right, so you've got this brilliant idea for your sociology project. That's fantastic. But before you dive into your research for the Investigating Society unit, we've got to talk about one crucial step, a step that is absolutely fundamental to your success: ethical approval.
As a senior ethics advisor, I get to see some truly incredible research ideas taking shape, and it's always so exciting. But I've learned something over the years. The best projects, the ones that really have an impact, are always built on a rock-solid ethical foundation.
So before you press record on that first interview or start digging into your data, let's just pause. We need to talk about the one step that will define the integrity and, the ultimate success of your entire project. And that's getting formal ethical approval. So over the next few minutes, we're going to walk through everything you need to know. We'll kick things off with what ethical approval even is, then we'll get into the core principles behind it. We'll look at the very real benefits and risks, see how this all applies in the field of sociology, and then wrap up with a really practical guide to getting your application right. Let's do this.
Okay, so first things first, what in the world is ethical approval? Believe me, it is so much more than just another piece of paperwork you have to fill out.
Think of it like this. It's a formal review of your project plan by a group of people called a Research Ethics Committee, or what we call the REC, and their whole job is to protect everyone involved. That means your participants, you as the researcher, and of course the university's reputation for doing high-quality, responsible work. The committee's goal is actually pretty simple. They just want to make sure your research is respectful, it's fair, and it's responsible. So they're going to look at your whole plan, from the big picture proposal right down to the tiny details of how you're going to manage and store your data. Now, let's get into the principles that guide every single decision the ethics committee makes. You should think of these as your ethical compass, right? They're what's going to keep you on the right path throughout your entire research journey.
Essentially, all research ethics here in the UK are built on three fundamental pillars. That's informed consent, confidentiality, and something called non-maleficence. So let's break down exactly what each of those means for you and your project.
So, informed consent. The key word here is active. It has to be a voluntary choice. It's not nearly enough for someone to just say yes. They have to really, truly understand what they're getting into, the purpose of your study, what they'll have to do, and any potential risks or benefits. It's all about empowering them to make a genuine decision, completely free from any pressure. Okay, our second big principle is confidentiality. And this is all about respecting a person's right to privacy. It means you have a serious duty to protect their identity. For most projects, this means that any data you publish in your final report has to be totally and completely anonymized.
And finally, we have non-maleficence. Now, that's a bit of a fancy term, but it boils down to a really simple but powerful idea: do no harm. Your research should always aim to make a positive contribution, and that means any possible risks to your participants have to be outweighed by the potential benefits of the study. And you know what? This principle protects you as a researcher, too.
So, understanding these principles is one thing, but really getting the real-world consequences of following them, or maybe more importantly, of failing to follow them, that's what makes you see how crucial they really are.
And look, the stakes are incredibly high. Getting that approval protects your participants, it makes your findings credible, and it builds public trust. But trying to skip this step, well, that can lead to some really serious consequences. You could actually harm people. You could face accusations of research misconduct. You might not be allowed to publish your work, and you could even face disciplinary action from the university. The choice really is pretty clear.
So, how does all this theory actually play out in the messy, real world of sociology research? Let's take a look at a couple of examples and some of the common challenges you might come up against. These examples from successful applications really show these ethical principles in action. For instance, in a study about LGBTQ+ experiences in the workplace, the researcher used pseudonyms to guarantee everyone's confidentiality. In another one, a project on teen body image, they made sure their data storage was super secure and that participants knew they could withdraw at any time. It's all about protecting people. And listen, challenges are just a normal part of doing research. Things will come up, that's a guarantee. But the beauty of going through the ethics approval process is that it actually forces you to think about these challenges ahead of time and plan for them, which turns potential disasters into totally manageable situations.
So, for example, let's say you're doing research in a really small, tight-knit community where guaranteeing total anonymity is, well, it's tricky.
Your ethics application is exactly where you'd propose solutions, like being really upfront about the limits of confidentiality, using pseudonyms, and having a super detailed plan for keeping your data secure.
All right, now for what you've all been waiting for, the practical part. How do you actually prepare a strong application for the Research Ethics Committee that's going to get you that green light to start your project?
Okay, step one. And this is absolutely crucial. When you're on the online form, it seems so simple, but selecting the wrong ethics committee is a surprisingly common mistake, and it can cause massive delays. So please, before you do anything else, double check and then triple check that you've picked the right committee for your school. Next up, you need to be crystal clear and really specific about what you're investigating and how you're planning to do it. Are you going to be using interviews, observation, maybe surveys? The committee needs to see that you have a really clear and well thought out plan. Now, this next section is absolutely vital. This is where you show how you're putting those core principles into practice. You need to explain exactly how you're going to get informed consent. And you have to make it perfectly clear that participants can back out of your study at any point. For any reason, no questions asked. And just before you hit that submit button, I want to give you one last pro tip from me to you. I call it the 3G test. First G, grammar. Please check your grammar. Second G, grandma. Could your grandma read it and understand it? You want it to be that clear, with no jargon. And the third G, well, that's for after you get that approval email. Go celebrate with a gin and tonic. Trust me, you will have earned it. So, as we wrap things up here, I just want to leave you with one final thought. Everything we've talked about today, the principles, the process, all of it, it's about so much more than just bureaucracy or ticking a box. Ethical conduct is the very bedrock of credible, responsible, and truly impactful research. The ideas that you're working on right now have the potential to make a real difference in how we understand society. It's your responsibility, and honestly, it's your privilege, to make sure that your contribution is built on a solid foundation of integrity. Now go out there and do some amazing ethical research. Good luck!